There are footsteps that make no sound, that don't touch the ground, yet echo far and wide, because they are the footsteps of an unyielding spirit. 3 months have passed since the accident. Lena is no longer in the hospital. She has moved back in with her mother into a small house on the outskirts of Colorado, the place of her childhood where the porch was bathed in sunlight and the wind rustled through the apple trees every autumn afternoon. Everything is strangely quiet. No car horns, no deadlines, no packed schedules, only birdsong, the whistle of the kettle, and confrontation. Every morning, Lena sits in her wheelchair by the window. She watches the trees, the sunlight, the neighborhood kids riding bikes down the dirt road. Sometimes she does nothing all morning, but observe. But within that stillness, something small began to sprout. One afternoon, her mother brought home a small whiteboard and a few colored markers. "Try writing a daily plan," her mother suggested. Lena gave a faint smile. "A plan? I can't even walk yet." But that night, she quietly wrote on the board. 8. Wake up and deep breathing. 9. Try to move left leg even if there's no feeling. 10. Write a short paragraph. 15. Call Jason. 21 honored. Write 3 things I'm grateful for. Tasks that seemed so small they bordered on meaningless. But for Lena, they were delicate threads keeping her from slipping into an invisible abyss. The next day, she completed 4 out of 5 tasks. The day after, 5 out of 5. And on the 3rd day, when she called Jason, her best friend from college, he was so surprised he fell silent. "Lena, your voice sounds brighter," she smiled softly. "I'm not sure it's bright, but at least it's not dark." That night, for the first time, she started a blog. She didn't use her real name, just wrote, "Still standing, notes from someone learning to stand again in a new way." The first post was brief, simple, without flair or polish. I used to think strength meant climbing to the summit. But now I think sometimes strength is just getting out of bed in the morning, even when no one sees. The post didn't spread, didn't go viral. But one comment made her sit in silence for minutes. "I lost my daughter in an accident 2 years ago. I haven't laughed since, but your post made me breathe a little slower. Thank you for still trying. Because of that, I want to try for one more day too." Lena rested her head on the desk. Her heart trembled, not from pain, but from a spark of light breaking through the darkness. The next day, she wrote again, and the day after that, again. Not for fame, not to heal anyone, but to remind herself I'm still alive, and being alive means I still have the power to create something good. Gradually, Lena returned to physical therapy, at first learning to balance on crutches, then using electrical signals to stimulate her thigh muscles. Some days she was so exhausted she wanted to quit. Some days she cried when she saw a single toe twitch, just a little. But to her, it was a miracle. After 5 months, the doctor said with surprised eyes, "We can't promise anything, but Lena might be able to stand on her own, even just for a short distance." Hearing that, Lena didn't shout, didn't break down in joy. She simply gripped her mother's hand and whispered, "I haven't lost." There are mountains that don't appear on any map. They lie within us, and sometimes conquering ourselves is the hardest journey, but also the most worthwhile one. That morning, there was nothing special. The sky was overcast. Gray clouds covered everything. Lena's mother was brewing tea and an old song played on the kitchen radio. But for Lena, that day was a big day. Bigger than any mountain she had ever climbed, bigger than her graduation day, or the day she won her first 50-kilometer trail race, because today, she would try to stand up. No audience, no cameras, no heroic music like in the movies. Just her mother, a standing frame, and a physical therapist named Clara, who had patiently stayed by her side for many months. "We're just trying, no pressure at all," Clara said, as gently as always. "If you feel tired, sit down immediately." Lena nodded. Her heart pounded so hard that her ears buzzed. She placed both hands on the frame, felt the cold steel through her sweat-warmed palms. Then slowly, as if every joint in her body had to think separately, she gently pressed down on the frame and tried to lift herself off the chair. Her thighs trembled, her spine screamed, but Lena clenched her jaw and stood up, not even 3 seconds. Her legs slightly bent, her whole body tense, but she stood, for the first time in 6 months, for the first time since the fateful fall. Her mother raised a hand to her mouth. Clara nodded gently, her eyes a bit red. Lena said nothing. She couldn't say anything. Her whole body was exhausted, tired, but inside her, something soft had been ignited. Not pride, but a small belief. Maybe I'm not done yet. Maybe life still has a place for me. That afternoon, Lena opened her laptop. She wrote a new blog post on still standing. This time, she shared about 3 seconds of standing and ended with, "If you can only stand for 3 seconds today, then that's still 3 seconds no one can take away." The post spread far. A high school teacher printed it out and hung it in the classroom. A father emailed to say thank you. Because of the post, he finally went to see a doctor about his depression after his wife passed away. Lena realized she was no longer just writing to survive. She was writing to connect, to let those who are falling know they are not alone. The next week, Lena began practicing walking with a frame. Each time she moved 1 meter, she wrote it in a notebook, 1 meter for today. After 2 weeks, she wrote total 9 meters. After 1 month, she wrote 18 meters and hope. Jason, her best friend, came to visit. Seeing Lena practice walking, his eyes welled up. "You look like you're being reborn." Lena smiled gently. "Not reborn, just for the first time I accept that living doesn't mean you have to run. Sometimes living is daring to take a step, even a very slow one." One night, Lena stayed up writing. A thin moonlight shone through the window. She had just finished a blog post titled, "One Small Step, A Different Life." In it, she wrote, "Before, I climbed mountains to prove I was strong. Now I practice standing up to learn how to be soft." Strength isn't about never falling. It's about daring to be vulnerable, daring to start over, daring to believe in what hasn't happened yet. She clicked post, then shut the laptop, looked out at the garden, silence, peace. There are moments that don't need to prove anything to the world. They just need to be enough for you to know you're still alive, still moving forward, and that is enough. Sure, here is the exact same text rewritten identically, not a single word added or removed, exactly as you requested. Not everyone forgets you when you fall, but what matters is that you don't forget yourself. One early morning in late autumn, Lena sat in front of the mirror longer than usual. She didn't fix her hair, nor did she put on makeup. She just looked so long that her reflection seemed to be looking back. Her hair had been cut short because it was easier to wash. Her face was thinner than before the accident. Her eyes were still hers, but deeper, more tired, as if they held winters yet to pass. She lightly touched her cheek and whispered, "Lena, do you still remember who you are?" Not an athlete, not a blogger, not an inspiration, just a girl trying to remember herself after the storm. That was the day she decided to take a walk without the support frame. Just a few steps in the backyard, slow, shaky, but by herself. Clara had agreed as long as Lena wore the support harness and had someone by her side. Her mother was the first to volunteer, but it was Jason, her best friend, who walked with Lena that afternoon. "You sure?" Jason asked, his eyes more serious than she'd ever seen. "Sure, I don't want to just survive, I want to live, to be present." The red brick path in the backyard stretched less than 20 meters, but to Lena, it felt like a marathon. Each step was a memory. The first step, she remembered the day she got her college acceptance letter. The second, her first day running with her dad. The third, the shattering glass of the accident. The fourth, her mother's sobs the night of the surgery. The fifth, the look in her own eyes in the mirror today. The memories didn't break her. On the contrary, each step seemed to stitch back parts of her fractured soul. She wasn't running anymore, but she was walking, and herself was returning. When she reached the end of the path, Lena laughed. Not a loud laugh, but a warm, gentle one, like a child learning to walk for the first time. Jason touched her hand and looked her straight in the eyes. "You know what, Lena? The accident didn't destroy you. It just made you forget for a while how strong you used to be." Lena nodded, gently squeezing her own hand. "Thank you for reminding me." Sure. Below is your original text rewritten exactly the same, word for word, with no additions or omissions. That night, she sat down to write a new blog post, shorter than usual. No techniques, no philosophy, no flourishes, just a message. "I used to be someone I was proud of. Then I fell, and I thought I disappeared. But today, I called my own name again. Not so others could hear me, but so I could remember that I'm still here." That post didn't go viral, no thousands of shares, but in her inbox there was a message from a 19-year-old girl. I wasn't in an accident, but I've hurt myself in so many ways. Today I looked up into the mirror and I said my name. Thank you, Lena. I'm still here. Lena smiled for the first time in months, not because the world heard her, but because she had started to hear herself again. There are times we think we've lost our name, but sometimes just whispering, "I'm still here," is enough for the heart to find its way again. Certainly, here is your original text rewritten exactly as is, with no additions, omissions, or changes. Lena sat on the chair, a soft yellow light from the desk lamp casting a glow over her thinner but calm face. The laptop screen in front of her lit up with a simple title, "I'm still here." She typed each line slowly, no longer writing to impress, no longer polishing her words to be admired. She was writing for herself, for the part inside that had been silent for too long. I used to be someone full of dreams, then my world collapsed. I fell, hurt, and lost my direction. But this morning, I took the first steps, not on a racetrack, but on the path back to myself. I'm not fast, not strong, not remarkable, but I'm still here, and I think that's enough. She didn't think much when she clicked post. She expected nothing. But the next morning, in her inbox, was a message that made her eyes sting. "You don't know who I am, but thanks to you, today I stood in front of the mirror, took a deep breath, and said my own name. Thank you for not disappearing." Lena sat in silence for a long time after reading that line. She didn't reply right away. Instead, she looked out the window, where the morning sunlight gently filtered through the leaves. A part of her had come back. No applause needed, no spotlight, just a simple whisper, "I'm still here," and sometimes that alone is enough to begin again. Thank you for listening.